Namaste, welcome to the Atharva Forum. Today we have a very special guest, Professor Prof Iyengar, who has recently been conferred the Sarasvati Samman by the Central Sanskrit University for his lifetime achievement in the area of ancient sciences. Today we are here to discuss about his latest publication, which is Mahasalilam, which was published and released in the month of December 2024 and released by none other than the chairman of ISRO. So, welcome Professor Prof Iyengar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hariharan. Happy to be here talking to you.
Thank you, sir. We are honored to have you here today. We thought we'll have a discussion on your latest publication, which is Mahasalilam. Generally, the idea about ancient astronomy, people think that it has come from the West, specifically Babylonia and Greek. But in your latest work, we can see that this Mahasalilam dates to 1800 B.C.E., which kind of puts it as the oldest work on astronomy in the world. So that sounds fascinating. And could you tell us how you actually started and what sort of manuscripts you looked at?
This is a topic of so much of great personal interest to me. And as you know, I have been working with natural events and natural phenomena in India from my days at the Indian Institute of Science, where I was interested with earthquakes, rainfall, and topics like that, which are of interest to this country. So history of earthquakes in India is a very, very important topic. So as I was going through searching for sources, I found that Bhukampa has been referred in several of the ancient texts, not only Brihad Samhita, but even texts prior to that, like Parāśara and Vṛddhagārgīya, and reference to earthquakes even in the Vedas are there, Mahabharata and Vedas. So that is how I took interest in science in Sanskrit. And since the texts which are available in print are only from the Siddhantic astronomy period, so to say from 100 AD or 200 AD, the question was always uppermost in my mind. If there are references to planets, eclipses, earthquakes in a text like Mahabharata, Mahabharata being an epic, are there other texts after Vedas which refer to these kind of scientific topics? So this has been a constant search for me. So first, of course, the Parāśara Tantra, which was available not in manuscript but only as quotations from other authors, which I published. Then I had a zeal to go back and see whether there are manuscripts. So we keep on talking about manuscripts. Nowadays we hear so much about manuscripts in this country. Even Government of India, even our Prime Minister is talking of manuscripts and bringing them out and publicizing them. So as I looked into the catalogs, manuscript catalogs, and as you refer to Babylonia and Greece, they get linked in the manuscripts, like the manuscript of the Census of Exact Sciences by Pingree, where he lists about more than 1 lakh of manuscripts on exact sciences in Sanskrit in India, more than 1 lakh. So when I went through that, and he also gives notes, he has written so many papers also. And you are right, he says there are manuscripts, but all these are only derived from Babylonia, derived from Chaldeans, or this astronomy is after the Greeks came to India. This is the kind of history which is there. Now, I was curious to know for myself, because Parāśara was not like that. Even though he was quoted by people who were in the 6th century and also in the 11th century, his observation belongs to 1300 BC. That is, from the observation statements he has given, I can do an archaeoastronomical analysis, go back and see when that could have happened because of the precession of the
Equinox.
axial precession of Earth, and see when these things were possible. So I was sure if Parāśara was available in quotations, there should be some material available even about Gārga, because these are the two names which come, Gārga and Parāśara, even in Mahabhashya actually, these names are mentioned as they are Jyotishkas, Jyotirvijnana, Parangatas. Fortunately, I came across the Vṛddhagārgīya Samhitā because they are listed, and in many manuscript libraries there are manuscripts called Vṛddhagārgīya Samhitā, Gārga Samhitā, Gārga Samhitā, and like that. But the problem is the literature has come down in such a way, as you know, the palm leaves, they have to be recycled every 200 or 300 years. Somebody has to rewrite. So they would rewrite only the important topics. If the subject the society thinks is important, this society will copy it and keep it. If they think it is not important, they will not copy it. So this Gārga Samhitā was copied, no doubt. I collected 25 manuscripts actually in the name of Gārga. But not all of them were really homogeneous. They are cogent. All of them were not of the same genre. So even though there are differences, the commonalities are also there. The name was the only commonality. But then there is a group of texts, manuscripts, which are called Vṛddhagārgīya Samhitā. Also different names are there, which I have covered in the Mahasalilam book, which are all of the same way. They start with the same Mangala Shloka, which I have given here, Jagadvidhatra, etc. So I put them together and search them again. So it's a classification I had to do. And they contain the same topic more or less. There are differences, but they're the same topic. There are a lot of differences, and the scripts are different, so they are written in different places. Kashmir, maybe in Bengal, maybe in Rajasthan. Rajasthan there are 2 or 3, and in Maharashtra. But there was no corresponding manuscript south of India I could not get. There is a Gārga Samhitā in Mysore Orient Library. But the text is different from this text. That is in Grantha script. But the text is different and more modern in content, because they all refer to the Rāśis. This Rāśi, Mesha, Vrishabha, that is like a marker to differentiate between the older ones and the ones which came after, you can say, roughly by the time of Aryabhata. And these texts, Vṛddhagārga, like I edited another text called Narada Shilpam. Narada Shilpam also doesn't have Rāśis and all that. So they belong, even Arthashastra doesn't have Rāśis, Bharatanatyam Shastra doesn't have Rāśis. So they belong to a different group of texts, which are not influenced by, you can say, the Greeks. Now the question is, were they influenced by the Babylonians? Because you raise the other issue.
Correct.
So that's what actually Pingree and others claim. So I wanted to see that also.
Right.
But I'm not a specialist in Babylonian astronomy.
Right.
I only know what others have written.
Right.
So when I went through that, it seems there is no correspondence at all between the two. Yes, they are also, Babylonians also observed, they have recorded so many things which I see from the publications. But in this, it's all totally different.
Right.
And the time, as you mentioned, it goes to
Right.
1800 BC or so.
Right.
That was a key issue.
Right.
And I have to tell you a long story if you are interested in
Oh, please.
listening about it.
Yeah.
The thing is, we know that Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa was by Lagadha.
Right.
That is Vedanga, no doubt. Vedanga only means there are 6 Vedangas. Jyotiṣa is one of them. But the question that I had to ask is, Brihad Samhita a Vedanga Jyotiṣa book? Is Brahmagupta's Brahmaspata Siddhanta, you want to call it Vedanga Jyotiṣa? Or you want to call Yavana Jataka Vedanta Jyotiṣa? These questions are very important. There has to be a time.
Right.
Chronology has to be. You have to say 500 BC is some limit. After 500 BC, you don't call any text to be Vedanga. Arthashastra is great, No doubt on that. Dharma Shastra books are all great, no problem. They are not Vedanga. Vedanga is the ones which help us to understand Veda. Like Nirukta helps us to understand.
Right.
Vyakarana helps us to understand Veda. And Kalpa, I need not say, you can't do any of the yagas without the Kalpa. Shulba Sutras, they help to create the altars. Like that, is there any single astronomy text which helps us to understand what is the kind of a Vedic words which are there can be understood from the help of this?
Right.
That was my great, you can say, an anguish to understand what it was and all that.
Right.
And then when I went through the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, it's a huge book with about 5,000 shlokas. There's one part, small part, called the 24th section, which is purely in prose, not in verse form, but purely in prose.
You have also mentioned that it is in the Brāhmaṇa style. Brāhmaṇa style pose.
It's a Brāhmaṇa style, yeah. That Brāhmaṇa style, I have to say, the prose text, the Brāhmaṇa prose text is very special. You know, the genres of Indian literature.
Right.
Now, I said that sutras are actually Vedanga, Kalpa Sutra and all this. Sutra style is different, Brāhmaṇa style is different.
Right.
And then there is an Aranyakas which slightly come in between also. There is a transition to the Sutra style. So the Brāhmaṇa style, if you have gone through that, you will see that, you will say, Tasmadaha, Hovacha, Birgura, Varunahi, Asa, these kinds of things come up. Those phrases, they are repetitively used. And again, iti, ending.
Right.
And this all follows that. And not only that, in Mahasalilam, there are sentences, I will have to get into the contents actually, which, like the Panchavimsha Brahmana, which is a Brahmana text, the observation of moon which is there, it says Anuvyakya Syamaha. Same Anuvyakya Syamaha comes here also. And moon reduces by 5 kalas, Panchakala.
Right.
In the Panchavimsha Brahmana, and also here it is the same way. So it is not only text but also the contents, there is a correspondence.
Right.
And to understand some of the words, if you have seen the introduction by Professor Pandurangi,
Right.
he explains where the Vedas can be understood with the help of Mahasalilam.
Right.
So I'll have to get into the details of that.
Yeah. I see that the foreword also has been written by Padma Shri M.D. Srinivas, a very enlightening foreword. You also mentioned that this is the 24th section, which is the 24th Anga. And what made you get into this Anga specifically? And you've also called that this is the oldest part of the text, which is the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Thank you for the question. Once again, it gets into the date and which is older, which is the oldest part.
right.
It's a very mundane question, I would say. If it is 2000 years old, 3000 years old, so what? Many people ask. True. The content is more important, but we get for our parampara, when you say parampara has to have a sequence. For that sequence, it is important.
Right.
And also to discriminate it from Babylonian astronomy or other astronomy, it is important.
Right.
And there, the story is, as M.D. Srinivas has commented on these things, there is a connection between the Puranas and this. But it's a surprising thing. Not all the Puranas, only the Brahmanda Purana, Vishnu Purana, Matsya Purana, and Vayu Purana. There are the 4 Puranas with which there is a correspondence. That correspondence is not only with this Mahasalilam, but also with the Maitrāyaṇī Aranyaka Upanishad, Maitrāyaṇī Aranyaka as it is called, where the ayana of sun is mentioned. Ayana is the movement of sun.
Right.
the southern sojourn, that is from the north to south going, it starts with the Maghā Nakṣatra, is what is mentioned. That, so when it is mentioned as the starting with the Maghā Nakṣatra, my curiosity was in Lagada's Archa Jyotiṣa and also in the Parāśara Tantra, it is said that it is Shravishtadi, is from the beginning of the Shravishta, and it is Uttarayana. Whereas here it's all Dakshinayana which says. So there should have been a time when they made the observations, whether the new year or whatever, I don't know. The fixed point was from this northern end, that is from the southern solstice. As you know, in the southern solstice, the northern solstice, when the southern movement starts, sun would be at the highest point in the horizon. And in the southern end, when the solstice ends and the northern sojourn starts, sun is at the lowest point, but it stays there for nearly 15 days. Stays there means the rise of the sun occurs at the same point, in that point on the horizon. Whereas otherwise he keeps on every day moving one bit like this. That is the ayana. And this is referred in Maitrāyaṇī, in Mahasalilam, and also in the Brahmaṇa Purana. So that investigation we did, because in the Brahmaṇa Purana, the position of sun and full moon is given. Here full moon is not given. There the full moon position is given. So once full moon position is given, full moon has to be 180 degrees away from sun. So I know where sun is. So if Kritika 1/4 and Vishaka 3/4 are the points, I got my answer.
Right.
So that is the key. The zodiac will fit with Maghā Adi and Shravishta Ardha exactly. And that happens somewhere around 1700 BC, maybe plus or minus 100 years. That has been published in the IJHS and all that. So the referees and those people who looked into it, they all were quite happy about it, and it was published. And that is exactly the statement here. This is also Magadhyam, it says Maghā which comes. So this text also roughly belongs to the same tradition. Maybe 50 years later, 100 years later, maybe one of his students might have done that, of the rishis who were there. That is all possible. But for us, the country, for the Bharatiya, so to say, it is Vedic. Because it is correspondence with the Maitrāyaṇī Saṃhitā, Maitrāyaṇī Aranyaka, and with the Brahmaṇa Purana, and with one part of this Vṛddhagārgīya manuscript, that is the 24th.
Right.
And hence, this is the oldest. The others are all in verse style. True. Shloka, Anushtup Shloka.
Right.
Whereas this is in the style of Brahmana text. What actually Professor Pandurangi writes, Brahmana Grantavat Panini Purvavarti Vakya Gatita Gadya Rupamidam Srishtiyadi Bhuta Mahasalile etc. Nirupya Tataha Panchabhutadi Kramena Samasta Jagadutpattim Nirupayat. That Brahmana Grantavat Panini Purvavarti Vakya Gatita. That is the important thing.
Right.
So it is pre-Paninian. So the language is pre-Paninian.
Right.
It doesn't say kurvanti, it says kurvate, abruvante. These kind of uses are there.
Right.
And one of the key issues of the Vaidika is about the Sannaya. But you wanted to ask something else. Please go ahead.
The text starts with Vishwamitra asking Vṛddhagārga about how the cosmos came about. What is the kind of picture that we can get about the world through the mouth of Vṛddhagārga?
So, continuing with what I said previously, the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, the manuscript, it has 64 sections. The first 24 sections are called Anga. The next are called Upanga. Upanga means subdivisions. So the subdivisions are later, which they themselves call it Upanga because it is secondary, it's subsidiary. They are added later. The first 24, they are concerned with planets, with so many things which are of importance to the ancient society. I will come to that when we talk in detail about Mahasalilam. But this 24th is kept at the end, is the last one. But when I started reading the initial chapters, there are many special words which I could not understand properly, technical words. But only when went through the Mahasalilam, all of them were clear. So this was the earliest one. They are added up now in a particular way, like in the office they put the files together, they have put all the adhyayas together. The oldest adhyaya is way down. So you have to look at the dating, not as a date at the top in an office paper,
Right.
but I have to do the analysis and bring it out. So the other chapters, one example I will give. It says in what order the 64 angas have to be studied by a student in a Gurukula. That is what is given in the second chapter. That is the content. This is an important thing. Many of our ancient texts, they have a content. Many do not know about it. Even the Puranas, they have a content. Brahmanda Purana, it starts with the contents. It says, I explain you the subject in the following way, after this, after this, after this. So you would easily know which something else is there. It is prakshipta. It has been added by somebody else kind of thing. So, and it telling that in the content it says, Sannayam Paurnamasyam Tata Pitrudaivata Tarpanam, which is a shloka which comes. Paurnamasyamcha Sannayam it comes. What is Sannaya? Amavasya I know. Paurnima I know. Sannaya is not known. So when we go to the Mahasalila, Sannayam comes, and if I try to compare it with the Vedic text, Pandarangi has written detailed on that. The present day dictionary says Sannaya is a mixture of curds and milk which has to be offered in Agni on the Darsha day, and the Darsha Ishti. Darsha is immediately after the, what we would call new moon nowadays, that is Darsha. You have to see the crescent. That is, and it is a mixture of milk and curds, it has to be given. That's all the meaning which is there. Now, how can I say, you study Paurnima, you study Sannaya, you study Darsha is what he says. But Sannaya, then he suddenly makes a mixture and drinks, or what does he do? You know, it's a big question for me.
Right.
But when you read Mahasalilam, it becomes very clear. They had a concept. Amavasya is the 15th day when you count the Pakshas, roughly the 15th day, and then Soma or Prajapati or Brahman, some cosmic force, comes and stays on earth, in the Oshadis, in the rivers, in the tanks and all that. This is a mantra which comes in the Veda. And he also quotes the same thing. There is the same mantra which is there. Then what happens? Then he goes to the Darsha. That means moon, new moon happens. Not exactly. Very clear. It says Sannayam Bhavati. So after Sannaya you have Darsha. So from Amavasya there is a Sannaya, then there is a Darsha. Everywhere the same way. That Sannaya is conjunction. In English, you have to say today, you would call it syzygy. It's an exact opposition or the conjunction which has to be there. So when they had the concept that the moon moves and exact position, then orb goes out and you see the visible.
Right.
That is what any scientist would say, or anybody would say. They also said the same thing. But they saw that in a cosmic fashion. Not in a very limited fashion of looking through a telescope or whatever. They didn't do that. And it was not just religion like even other religions, Islamic religion. They look at the crescent moon and all that. They also looked at the crescent moon, but they had a very deeper understanding. And that Sannaya was the exact coincidence. And at that time they had to do a lot of things because Prajapati or Brahman or whoever has ordained that these two have to come together, then this moves. Now this has given rise to later astronomy, Siddhantic astronomy and all that. And the concept of time and other issues, and Darsha Purnamasa, and the yaga they do of the Darsha Purnamasa.
Right.
That is how it has come.
So it is interesting that there is discussion on sun, moon, comets, planets, so many observational phenomenon. How is it that without any modern equipment that we have today, that people made such accurate observations? For example, the Sannaya that you are describing.
The naked eye observations are possible. Even today they are possible. What is required is curiosity, intelligence, and interest. Interest in knowing a subject or curiosity to understand nature. Today we use the word nature. They were not using the word nature. They were using the word Bhuvanam, Vishwam, Prajapati, or some such thing they might have been using. Now, in the Rig Veda itself, there is discussion about how this Srishti happened. You asked about Vishwamitra's question to Vṛddhagārgīya.
Right.
They knew the rhythm which is there, the cyclic kind of thing, that there is a kind of a law. But they knew that there was something underlying all of this. And the comets you mentioned, comets were disastrous actually. Many of the comets were disastrous. In fact, my interest in comets was because of Parāśara. Parāśara Tantra is the best book where the 26 comets are discussed in very great detail with their position, with their name, with their almost orbit, and what destruction they caused, particularly in north, in the Kurukshetra region and in the northwest of India. And this destruction is there even in the Puranas. Skanda Purana, for example, the drying up of the river Sarasvati, all these are there in what you would call a storytelling style. But they are physical. And they can all be related with natural sciences. If you know geology, geosciences. In fact, I worked with one very famous person. Since you are asking, I have to say that. One Dr. B.P. Radhakrishna, who was the president of the Geological Society of India.
Yes.
Was a great man in Bangalore. He was also honored by Government of India, Government of Karnataka. He was a secretary to Government of Karnataka. And the drying up of the river Sarasvati was a big question. And I showed him in the Rig Veda what are the mentions which are there, and in the Puranas what are the things which come up, and in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, the falling of a comet, and Irine Nyuktaha Hridayam Nirdahanti, the mantra which is there. And what is Irina? Irina is Rann of Kutch. That everybody agrees, even Periplus, that Eritrean Sea, he has a chronicle. And he says he comes to Airinon and then he goes to Barake, Dwaraka and South India. That Airinon is the Irina, little Rann of Kutch region. Later on, even Alexander, by the same route he went, they also mention about this. And the archaeologists are accepted. They also, in fact, Dr. Bisht has also written on this. Irina became the Rann. Otherwise, the word Rann, from where did it come? It is Irina. This Irina is in the Mahabharata also. And clearly it says the Tirthayatra Parva, Dharmaraja and others were asked to go to Irina, where Sarasvati River dried up, and where in Irina there are openings. It says 60,000 openings are there. You go there, which is near actually Dwaraka, according to the Mahabharata, and where Saraswati dried up, and the Vinashana is near and all that. That Irina is very important. And why did it happen? Because they say something fell down there. It is a crater, it got formed. Now it is established. Just about some time back, last year, even NASA put a big figure of that and where a crater could have happened in the Aravalli region. So that region was very important for this country. And all these things, in a way, short way, it is there. He says, Sarasvati, Shreshtatama Nadi, in the geography he says that. In no other text you would get reference to Sarasvati as a Nadi. Of course, you get in Rigveda.
Rigveda.
Ambita me,
Nadi.
okay, that is different. But Saraswati there, even as a Devata, it is mentioned. So, might have even dried up by the 10th mandala time or whatever, I don't know. Here also, it may be a small rivulet, but it is Shreshtatama. Then only the other rivers, Ganga and the 5, Panchanadi. That is how the Punjab 5 rivers. So, 7 rivers are mentioned. So, this belongs to a later date. That Vishwamitra may not be the Vishwamitra of the 3rd mandala.
Right.
Maybe one of his Gotra people.
Right.
And in many of our texts, these are all repeated because it says, Anu Vyakhyāsyāmaha. Anu means once again I describe. So there would be a original Vyakhyāsyāmaha.
Right.
What was that? We don't know. It is not available. It may be oral totally. And this is also oral. Like the other Brahmanas, these are all oral. But somebody remembered and they put it in script. And that is our good luck. Otherwise this would have been lost. Because this is not studied in the Gurukulas. Now the other Brahmanas, some of them,
Right.
in the Gurukulas, I don't know how far they repeat it. Yes, by rote. Samhitas they learn in the Vedic Gurukulas. And I know in North, in some of the places, the Shatapatha Brahmana, some of the things they repeat.
Right.
But the other things which are all forgotten and missed, we don't know how much is forgotten and gone.
Right.
But this one was remaining somehow. And that gives this information. So it explains the Vedas. Now the remaining part of Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa also may have some link with the Veda. It definitely has, because that is derived from this. But slowly it became diluted, When you come to the Alexander's time, and later on you go to Arthashastra. Arthashastra doesn't have Rāśi, but it has the 5-year yuga. So 5-year yuga is also here. So the observations were all naked eye observations, close observations, and then linking them up, and the observed values, the observed, you would say experiences,
Right.
not values, experiences, they are frozen as mantras. Importantly, with numbers. The number is the key. And number is the origin of science, as you know. Without numbers, there is no science. It's a quantification.
Right.
So right from the Maruts, right from the Ayanas, Aharganas, and in the Rigveda itself, there are at least about 90 to 100 numbers. Not only 3, 4, 7, 12, you have Navatir Nama, you have other 6 monthly things are there, Shodasha, Shadaha, and then 3,339, which you know, Trinishata, Trisahasrani, that number,
Right.
How do they come? It is observation, and they put it in a mantra as a story. The story is there, as a legend, or what would they call an akhyana. In fact, these are all discussed by Sayana and others, Sayana writes Vyakhyanas and he says the Upakhyana.
Right.
And that is how the Artha has to come up,
So it seems like India was very vibrant in natural sciences, and the idea that India contributed to 25% of the world GDP seems like it is not unfounded, because people were so productive and were scientific in their outlook right from the beginning. So any comments on that as to what happened later? Because this looks like, the Mahasalilam looks like a precursor to both math as well as the Siddhanta astronomy itself. Some comments on that, Professor?
Yeah, indeed, it is the inspiration to the Siddhantic astronomy. As I said, it was in a period where day-to-day life, what you would call social life, sometimes today you call it the religious life. You have to discriminate between these things. For them, whether it was a religion or whether it is a social life, I can't say. It's a culture, you can say. So, science itself was a kind of, this kind of observation was a culture, but they related it themselves with the universe, with the cosmos. So it should have been a very happy way of things. But there were ups and downs. As I said, the distractions were there after some time. So that distraction should have led to questioning, a lot of questioning. How old it was, whether it was a million years ago, something might have happened. Those questions also came up. So my comment would be that this is definitely the starting point for all of that. But it would be an extrapolation to say that all the modern science was already there. That is not true. Vedic science is so important and we should be proud and it should be supported, promoted in this country. All that I agree. But not as quantum science. And already that everything was known to us kind of thing. That makes us weak. It should not happen. But this line of thinking should come to our youngsters. Then they will do new things, even in modern thing. There is nothing like Western science or Indian science. I don't believe in that. Intellectualism is same. And after all, Prajapati or Brahman or God should be same for everyone. Here also the same thing comes, Devasura, Sanyata. They were all together, Prajapati children only. There is no doubt on that. So that samarasya has to come and that intellectual thing has to go up. Then the new things will come. India will shine. But this is needed. That integration has to happen.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Could you please explain the term Mahasalilam itself?
See, Salila is a word very peculiar. I don't know what is the Vyutpatti for that. Modern Vyutpatti you people may give, Vyakarnas may give. But the word Salila comes in the Rig Veda. It is the character, if you see by what it is explained, it is what our rishis saw or felt as the primal matter, matter for creation. The word matter I am using in English sense. You can call it Upadana Karanam, or Nimitta Karanam, whatever you want to call.
Yes.
It is the matter, it is the reason, it is everything. So that is Salila. Later on they called it by the name water also. In fact, in the Taitiri Samhita says, Apava idamagre Salilam. The water was like Salilam, it says. So Salilam is some dark matter. Important thing it says is, it is Andha, Tamasi, Andhe Tamasi Salilam. It was a dark matter. They visualized it's something dark. I can't call it darkness. Because the concept of darkness comes to an object. It is not a quality, it is darkness itself. Reason also, in the Srishti, he says, even in Mahasalilam, even in other Vedic texts, light came afterwards. I don't know whether you observed that. It is Gauhuj Ajayanta, it comes, In the beginning itself it comes. He says Swahakara and there is a Prajulita Archihi. Juhvan Tato Bhrigu Rajayata. First one was Bhrigu. Before that Aditya was born. This same sequence is there in the Aitareya Aranyaka also. I have given reference to that. Then Angiraha Samabhavat. Tasmin Swahakare Angirasam Asrujata. Punaha Prajwalya Agnim Juhoti. Asmin Swahakare Kashyapaha Ajayata. Then Vasishta Pakshaha. Then Panchame Swahakare Gauha Ajayata. Shashte Swahakare Tejaha. Is important. Gauha doesn't mean cows.
Right.
Vasishta Paksha are the Saptarshis, where Vasishta is there, the Ursa Major as it's called.
Yes.
After that, he says it was Gauh. Gauh should be some kind of light.
Right.
Then Tejaha. Tejaha is energy, radiance.
Right.
Light itself may not heat anything, but it has to have some induction which comes up,
Yes.
That is how it comes up, So then he goes further to Vasantam, Asrjata, and then there are some interesting things. Meshaha gives and all that, Pashuhu Ajayata. That comes up even in the Nirukta. Mesha is not the, here also it comes Mesha Jayata. Mesha comes up even in the Purusha Sukta. That Mesha is not the present day goat. It is Mishati iti Meshaha is what Nirukta says. Something which was shining.
Okay. Okay.
From that shining, something which was Gauh, rays was coming. And something from that, a radiance Tejaha came up.
Oh, okay.
So there is a sequence. That is how they realized it.
So this is the cosmology from Mahasalilam.
It is the cosmology. And that cosmology, how they brought up, maybe intellectual, maybe some divine perception, we don't know.
So let's deep dive into Mahasalilam itself. It seems that there are 108 grahas that is listed. Is Rahu also mentioned in it?
See, the 108 graha, specifically Rahu is not mentioned in that. It says Surya, Chandra, then the Panchatara graha, and then there are 101 Ketu. Now, is Rahu included in one of them? That is not very clear. But the 101 Ketu, he has not given all the names for that. It is only the number which is said. So 108 graha, he says, Vedoktam grahanam ashtashatam sankhyayate. But Rahu is mentioned separately. After the Panchatara graha, Rahu is mentioned. That once in 6 months, Rahu comes and sits with sun and moon. That is how this story comes. So it's the 6-monthly eclipse possibility is what has been mentioned. So they would have known the eclipses, Rahu, but the Ketu are mostly comets or meteorites. Now many of the names of the Ketus are given, even in Mahasalilam. But this is expanded in the Ketu Mala of the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa in the later chapters. It is the 7th Anga. All the 101 are listed, names are listed. And among them, 26 were supposed to have been observed. So that is the system which is followed. Even in Parāśara says the 26. So to answer your question, Mahasalilam is the first one which says, as per the Vedas, there are 108 graha. And these graha are celestial bodies. They were also used the same name in the yagas when they were doing. The cups were also called graha. That much we can say.
It seems like the Panchanga term, that is Tithi Vara Nakshatra Yoga Karana, Tithi specifically looks like it's a technical term. Could you explain that, Professor?
Yeah. You see, the word Tithi has led to a lot of controversies. I have to give a brief introduction on that, a background of that. You know, as of now, there are 30 Tithis in a month. You know, the synodic month is not exactly 30 days. It is not 30 sunrises. It is somewhere slightly less than that, 29 and a half or so. That value was known to both Lagadha, Parāśara, Vṛddhagārga. Even in the Vedic period, it was known. So that is why they devised new issues. So after 29 and a half, you have to drop a count. So they brought out what are called Karana. That is there even in the Taittiriya Brāhmaṇa and other places. They use different names. There were names for Shukla Paksha morning, 15, Shukla Paksha night, 15, Krishna Paksha morning, 15, again similarly another 15, totally 60. So 60, you can say, names or tokens were used per month. So if you say Saññānam, That would refer to the Shukla Paksha, morning, first Muhūrta, this, that, all those things like a coordinate they were using. Very complex, but they had. Slowly that got sorted out. But the word Tithi did not come. Now, Tithi is like end. In English, we would say 10th, 4th, the TH sound, which is like a bookend. So, Purna Tithi Purnima Bhavati is what it says. Purna Tithi, first time it is used. The same word is used in the Mahabhashya also, in the sense how the word Tithi should be used. So, even in the Mahabharata it is used, Tithi, as in the sense of something which ends with it. It can be spatial, it can be temporal. But without the word Tithi, counts were there. But you see a very interesting thing. Tithi has no meaning even today without the Paksha. If you simply say Magha Masa, Panchami Tithi, nobody would say. What say whether it's Magha Krishna or Magha Shuddha, you have to say that. Otherwise, it has no meaning. Actually, that Magha is superficial, not necessary. If you say the Ayana and the Ritu and the Paksha, that is sufficient. So, in the older days, before the month names became popular, it was only the Ayana, Dakshinayana, Uttarayana, Ritu, Vasanta Ritu, Shishir Ritu, Varsha Ritu, these were the things which are important. But then the Masa came in. I am not telling it is not there. Magha came in. The Masa came in. So in the Masa you have to say these things. Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha. There of course there are differences which are there. Mahasalilam doesn't get into those details. It goes into the Ayana and day counting. And an important thing with counting you asked. Here the starting Ayana, as I said, was the Dakshinayana. It started with the first point of Magha, and that was Varsha Ritu. So Varsha Ritu was started, sun was in the first point of the Magha sector. Now the word Varsha, you know that, it has the meaning of rain, but Varsha is also Varsha, is the year. Same thing with Abda. We use the same words even to this day. In all Indian languages, we say Varsha. Vishwa Vasu Varshe. We say. Not that year started from the Varsha Ritu. But in the olden times in India, because monsoon was so important, probably the year started with the Varsha Ritu. But that may not be the civil year, civil new year, but it was the religious Varsha Ritu. That is why the Shravana Paurnamyam Upakarma Karishye. So that is the beginning of the Varsha Ritu in those days.
So you just mentioned about Ayana, Abda. So Varsha, this is something that we use perhaps every day in our Sankalpa.
Yeah.
Could you please talk a little about the idea of Sankalpa itself and what it means astronomically?
Yeah, okay. It's a very loaded question and also a very deep question. A question which is of importance to all Hindus, I would say. As Sanatanis, this Sankalpa is so important. So in the Sankalpa we make a determination, a resolution, but in that resolution that we are going to do a work, we bring up time. The key issue is that. So Hinduism, what I would call the Vedic Hinduism, is time. It's concerning time. It is a characterization of time. It is a celebration of time. It is a personal enjoyment of time, worship time. This comes from a very peculiar thing. Namely, if you see the Sankalpa, there are three elements in it. All over India it is there in Sanskrit, but with local variations. Adya Brahmana Dvitiya Pararde Shveta Varaha Kalpe Vaivasvata Manvantare Kaliyuge Prathame Pade Jambudvipe Bharata Varshe Bharata Kande Shakabde Meror Dakshine Parshve Asmin Vartamane Vyavaharike Prabhavadi Shashti Samvatsaranam Madhye Vishwavasu Nama Samvatsare. Then starts Dakshinayane, then some Rutau, Varsha Rutau, Shravana Mase, Shukla Pakshe, Paurnamasya, etc. etc. See, there are 3 time units in this. This has to be recognized. The oldest, which goes up to Parārdha, up to creation. Creation is Mahasalilam. It goes to the starting point of creation. Now, whether Hindus were creationists like the Abrahamics or others is a different matter, or they were evolutionists like the Darwinians, that is a different matter. I am not going into that. But it goes to that. Then the second one, why do you say Shakabde? It's a key issue. Now, Sanatanis claim that this dharma is eternal, it's perpetual, it's from Achandrarka, it is from there. But who was Shaka? Shakabda is 78 AD or maybe 58 BC, one of the 2 things you take. And who was Shaka? He was not a rishi. He was a person who destroyed India. The Shakas, the Scythians, they destroyed part of India, including Ayodhya, Avanti, Pataliputra. That is there in one of the chapters of Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa called Yuga Purana. So this Purana, why Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa is important is because of this. That is one of the Angas that has been edited by Michener and others, that's available in print. Because they say it is historically important when the Scythians invaded India around 100 BC. So there was devastation. Then the Guptas threw them out and all that. And why the previous Parārdha and all that? This becomes, what is Kaliyugadi? It is historical. Because you can find out the date, like 1000 BC, 2000 BC, 3000 BC, that you can fix up. Kaliyugadi is fixed up more or less by astronomers. Whether it is Krishna's date is a different matter. I am not going into that. That is a different matter. And what about the previous thing? That is the natural history. So that natural history has come up because previously we were talking about Sarasvati, cometary impacts, destructions. Our ancients have thought about what could have happened from creation up to Sarasvati time. It is a question which the Vedic people have asked, and they have come to the conclusion. Whether it is scientific or not, how did they come is a different matter. That sun was created 2.3 billion years ago. Now, why this sun coming into picture? Because in Vedic parlance, time starts only after sun's birth. That is, Suryo Yonihi Kalasya. And so Kalam Brahmetyupasita. These are the mentions which is there. That is almost an injunction that you have to worship Kala as Brahma. What is the meaning of that? Now, how do you give it to the common Indians that Kala is Brahma? They introduce some of these concepts. In the Saṅkalpa, you say that you have to think, you have to meditate about it. And there are 2 key issues there. You know, among the Sanatanis, there are groups. You have the Shaivas, Vaishnavas, the Shaktas. These are the 3 original, old one. That is the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara and the Shakti. Now, Vishnu had avatars. Avatars are human avatars. Rama and Krishna were born to human parents. Was Parvati born to a human parent?
No.
Born to Himalaya Parvata? And was Shiva born to it?
No.
It's a linga. Linga is an insignia. Later on, people would say it's a phallus, this, that, all kinds of things.
Correct.
We will not worry about what Trushke says, what others say, we will not bother about it. It is actually in the Skanda Purana, as explained, it is the Kalagni Rudra who fell down near Irina, near the Arbuda Parvata. That is near the Aravali region. Kalagni Rudraya Nilakantaya Mahash. That is the Rudra. And he is called Irinya. Irinyaya cha prapathaya cha namaha. Bharat, you know that.
Right.
Why Irinyaya cha came up? You ask them. They say he is the person who stays in a Pradhara what Keith and says. He stays in a hole. Wow, what does that mean? It is Irinya is that geological form. It is the land form of the dried up Sarasvati River, which Skanda Purana says there was a Agni which burned up. Maybe a small volcanic eruption could have happened there, you know. Okay. That could have happened long time back. That is the Kalagni Rudra. And that is the Vedic thing. And that is the birth of Shiva.
Right.
So Linga and Vishnu, Shakti, they were all important symbols. Some of them are human avatars, some of them are non-human avatars. Now the non-human avatars, they go back in time, before the historical time. Now you would say in astronomy, we have the JD number, Julian day number. Right. It starts with 3000 something, 63 BC or so. Now among the Abrahamic Christians, they had once a proposal that God created earth on 4003 BC on a Thursday, on a Sunday, which was a equinox or something like that. We don't have such concepts. The origin was sun birth. That happened 2.3 billion years ago. And for Vaishnavas and Shaivas and Shaktas, all the three, it is so important. You have the human avatara, no doubt. You have the other non-human avatars, Matsya, Kurma. There's a gradation.
Correct.
One more, you had this Saligrama. Saligrama, as you know, is Vishnu per se. You don't need any Pratishta.
Correct.
He is Vishnu directly. What is Saligrama? It is an ammonite.
Right.
If you say geologically, there are some ammonites which are inside and then solidified and all that. When did it happen? You ask, it's 106 million years ago, scientifically. And that means Vishnu had taken avatara as Saligrama in the most ancient time, in the natural history time, even before all of this, you know. And that concept is there in the Garuda Purana and all that. And you may say, these Saligramas are after all in Gandaki Nadi, in Himalaya. Fine, agreed. But when did the Tethys got formed? When did Himalaya get formed? It moved from the continental drift already about 200 million years ago and all that. And it is the Aravali ridge coming into here, into Delhi, you know, in the ridge region. And it continues like this. And it is here the Yamuna River going through the Rashtrapati Bhavan and going as a dip, once again rising like the Tethys River. This is the natural fair. This natural science is built into that, into the Saṅkalpa. If you can enjoy it, if you can see that, you enjoy it. The Vedic people did this. After all, our Puranas have come only from the Vedas, you know. Right. In the Vedic, where did they do? They didn't have a Saligrama, at least in the available Vedic text. But very curious things are there. There is the Agni Chayana and these things, you know. They had to bring 5 Sambharas, important Sambharas, before they built that. One of them, I will not go into all the details. If you read Taitira Aranyaka, you will see that, was Valmika Vapa. Valmika Vapa is going to be what is there in the termite mound. Valmika Vapa is termite mound. It is not the Valmika of the snake. Oh. It is the Vamri. Valmika, people say it is going to be the other red ant. It is not that. Okay. It is the Vamri is the Sanskrit word. That is, in English, what we would say, termite, you know. It is a termite. It is a termite mound. There is a white skin kind of thing, which is a mucus which is covered inside, not on the outside, inside. That is, it clearly says in Taittiriya Aranyaka, this is the Pratamaja Ritavarihi Asya Ritasya.
Oh.
Is the first, one of the first born of this Srishti, this Vamri, this termite. Termites are earlier than even the Ammonites. Even the modern science says the termites, then the cockroaches or something came up, you know. So termites are the, there may be even other things. Today they might have known it is older than some 100 million. I am not going into that. But why did Taittiriya Aranyaka should say it wanted gold also? Gold plate had to be kept. So many other things have to. They knew they were all the older ones. The Srishti Adi. And Kala was that. You know. Time itself, the abstract Kala was made into forms. So the most beautiful, most serious thing in all of Indian thinking, including astronomy. Astronomy, what we talk, we would see that only a very byproduct of all of this. And it is time.
Right.
To understand time, they have struggled. You know. We struggle even today. And we simply say, okay, Hawkins has written a book on time, Feynman has written a book on time. Right. But we are struggling with time.
Right.
And Saṅkalpa is time. It wants people to understand time. So the oldest, so to conclude, is the most ancient time, the natural historical time, which goes into millions of years. Then the historical time, which you can put a mark, like Mahasalilam is 1800 BC, and you can say something else is 500 BC, Buddha is 500 BC, Shaka is 78 AD. The third one is my Tithi, my Ritu, present day, Shravana Masa, this, that, present day, continuous.
Right.
This is the time, Saṅkalpa.
Okay.
Very deep.
Yeah, sure. So it seems like Mahasalilam is also a sort of a precursor to astrology and nakshatras and things like that. Also linked is the legend of Rohiṇī and Chandra is what we kind of understand. Could you elaborate on that, sir?
Yeah. It's again a very important question and a very deep question. Mahasalilam gives an answer, very crisp, cryptic, but you can understand what it means. You know. After the discussion about sun, moon, and also the 5 grahas, ketus and all that, Mahasalilam goes to the nakshatras. And there, the nakshatras are either 28 or 27, it says. And they were all the daughters of Prajapati, and these things you have to, should not take it as anthropomorphic, but you have to take it as the natural things are converted into anthropomorphic things. So Prajapati's daughters would mean only the 27 or so. And he says that they were given in marriage to, it doesn't say Chandra initially, it says Soma. These are the things which you have to recognize the difference. The same word Soma is used for Prajapati. Later on, Chandra is also called Soma. So Chandra is also called sometimes Prajapati. There is an equation of that kind. But the concept of Soma is very deep from the Rig Veda. And Soma in the Rig Veda, you get into a lot of troubles. Whether Soma is the Soma Rasa or Chandra or something else. In fact, if you see systematically who is Soma, because that is important to understand Mahasalilam, Soma is again some time. It is the primal time or the primal substance, whatever it was. It is very hard to explain. There is something which should be further, you can't differentiate it further. Like a Paramanu or something, you can't break it further. You have to keep it like that. That was Soma. So when Chandra was given, or Soma was given, the 27 or 28 wife, it says that Soma stayed only with Rohiṇī. And the other sisters complained about this to Brahma or Prajapati. This comes up in the Veda also, not only in the Mahasalilam. But the Puranas have distorted this story. You have to keep that in mind. And then Mahasalilam goes on to explain what happened when it has two cycles. In first cycle, the sisters go and complain. Then, Prajapati calls Soma. But when he says Soma, he says Chandra. He calls Chandra. The word used is Chandra. So you have to understand, maybe for contracting the text, the length of the text, they have skipped so many things. Like in the Brahmana text, small sentences are given. It's a small sentence like that. So Chandramasam Uvacha, that's all what it comes. Tvam other Anrita Vagasi iti ash, that's all what it comes. Then he says, no, I'm not like that. So then he gives the shapa, you become Raja Yakshma, and because you are cheating the other. Then he says that I will remain with everyone equally. But the sisters once again come and complain. No, he is not maintaining his thing. And once again he calls them. Then he gives again the shapa and all this. He says, no, I'm not. I am treating all of them equally, he says. I'm not only with Rohiṇī. But still Prajapati insists. So then suddenly Chandra realizes that Rikṣāni Nakshatram Bhavati. That is a very important statement. Saha Prajapatim Abhyavagachan Itordvam Tanicha Rikṣāni Nakshatram Prasidatu Bhagavan Visrishtavan Ayam Ichchami iti Abravit. And even the sisters would say that Tata Sapatniha Syaditi. And there are patantaras. Ayam Patimichchamo iti Abraviran. They said, no, we will leave him. We will all equally be there. And from then onwards, Tatah Prabhati Somaha Sarvasu Samat Vartate. This is all Taittiriya Brahmana, Kataka Brahmana sentences. Directly they are the sentences. That is why it is Vedic Brahmana. So what was the meaning of that is the question. What was Rohiṇī? And that you have to see in the, again in the Vedic text. Why he was staying with Rohiṇī? Samvatsara Prajapatihi. So Prajapati was staying with Rohiṇī because he was Samvatsara. The year is also, the time is also a forum. Where was he staying with Rohiṇī? Where it is said? It is in the Kataka Samhita. Kataka Samhita says that it was the Prajapati Rupa was the Soma Surupa. Etadve Prajapate Rupam Erhesh Rohiṇyam Kriyate Yad Brahmana Rohiṇī Tasmad Udyati Surya Kriyata. Etadve Prajapate Rupam. That means in the Kataka Samhita it is said Prajapati was stayed with in the Rupa of Samvatsara when Rohiṇī arose in this Vasanta Ritu. So the Samvatsara was measured with the Vasanta Ritu. Even though for the year of the beginning of the Ritu is Vasanta. Ritunam Vasantaha. Masanam Margashirshoham. So Ritu was Vasanta Ritu, was the first Ritu, not the Varsha Ritu. Varsha Ritu was the Ayana for the other purpose. Then the Annaprashana has to be done, new rice, and the Rohiṇī Nakṣatra, that. Even now in Rohiṇī Nakṣatra, Annaprashana is done. So that is the meaning, because Rohiṇī, things grow. That is the rice and these things are growing. So before Mahasalilam, before 1800 BC, people were observing the Vasanta Ritu as per Rohiṇī's rise before sunrise in the Vasanta Vrata. That is the meaning. Then the positions of the stars, these 27, they are unequal. Samvatsara or Soma or Kala was unequally moving in them during the Rohiṇī period. Then onwards, the astronomy changed. That change they don't mention that we did. It is the Prajapati who ordered. Soma agreed, and he agreed that I am going to stay with all of them equally. So it became 27 sectors. Till then, Rohiṇī was only a single star. Rohiṇyam, always in the Veda, it is the Ekavachana. Maghasu, Bahuvachana always. Shravishtasu, Bahuvachana. Vishakhe, Dvivachana. That is how it was. Chitra, Ekavachana. Then they said no. There the number of stars are there, totally 86, not 27. Originally they had only 27 or 28. 27 or 28, that because Abhijit was included.
Right.
Later on, they were all equal, only 27. So they divided that into equal parts. So then Soma would be equally staying. That is the Madhyamadhikara of this Siddhantic astronomy, where the mean motion of moon and sun. That means sun, 366 days in a year, he stays equally for 13 5/9 days in each nakshatra. Nidana Sutra, it says the Vaidika Sutra. And Soma also, Chandra also stays equally, 27.3 days for the one sidereal cycle. Then the ayana measurement comes. In 10 Surya ayanas, there are 134 Chandra ayanas. Saumya ayana nakshatrana, Maghā starting. That is the time. Right. And then, why this division was done? What is the reason? Samavartata is okay, one thing. And that was mathematical actually, the Samavarta. That was to indicate some work which has to be done on the earth for people to show good and bad. That is the Muhūrta, to indicate what you call today Muhūrta. Now you know there are 30 Muhūrtas in a day.
Right.
Now how many Muhūrtas sun is going to be there, how many Muhūrtas moon is going to be there, they calculate, they are available, not in this but in later text. Here it is only that indication is given. Why this has to be done? Prajapati says, it is for the good of the world. And there is a yoga. Yoga means combination. Combination of who? Agni Shoma. Agni Shoma is a very deep Vedic concept that all universe, everything in universe, is the creation of joining Agni and Soma. I'm sure you would have heard about it. It's the plus and minus, you can say positive and negative, or male and female, you can say, Stri, Pum, you can say.
Right.
This is the Agni Shoma. And interestingly, who is Agni, who is Soma? Then the next question comes up. They say that the nakshatras are Agni. Nakshatras are Stri. All the nakshatras are Stri. All the 27 are the wives of Soma, right? And it comes, the Patihi, Patniha comes, Patihi, Devaha, it comes, So they are to be interested like that. And even though the nakshatras are in different lingas, you have to treat them only as three. And if they combines equally with all of them, when he combines there, means astronomical.
Right.
You can't treat it in any other manner, but it is extraordinarily cosmical. During that time, when moon is in Kritika Nakshatra, what happens? All the karmas happen, all the actions happen. What kind of actions happen? Which are related to the Devata of Kritika. What is the Devata of Kritika? Is Agni. Why Agni is the next question. He says very clearly, Pura Prajapatihi Agni Rupena Avasat, Kritikayam Avasat.
Wow.
So that is the reason why all Agni related things can be done. He says, Atato Bhagavan, Etaha tava duhitarha tulya dakshinyaha. All your daughters have the equal attitude. Aham apicha saumyatvat somaha. I am also a very calm person. Karmanancha ugra kshipra dhruva daruna mrudu chara sadharananam karma kalaha nivartitavyaha katamatra maya anushtayam. But you ask me to indicate these kind of times. How do I do? And he says that vikarana dharmena etaso trishya ite kale samupagachan yena vikarana vashena upastatasihi sa tasyaha daivatamiti sangitam bhavishyati. He says, don't worry, in the most ancient time, you stayed with these 27 nakshatras with a very special anomaly, vikarana vishesha. That vikarana dharma is still there. You stay with that dharma, people will understand these are the acts to be done. What was that? Then he says that. He gives two examples like in a textbook. The evamastu iti uktva somaha kritikasu madhye agnir bhutva upatishtati. Whenever he comes there, he becomes Agni. Kritika Agni Daivatam Karma Abhicharam Bhavati. Kritikascha Agni Daivatya iti Jagati Pratita. Agneyani Tikshnani cha Kritikasu Karmani Siddhyanti. And this is explained in the later Palita Jyotiṣa books. Both Parāśara, Vṛddhagārgīya and all that. So I have given that in the appendix, those some of the nakshatra things here in the, you can see that. Kritika Nakṣatra, Kanyopanayana can be done. That's a very important thing. And Kritika, obviously, you know, is Kartikeya is out of Kritika.
Correct.
And Agni, Draupadi came out of Agni.
Right.
All these legends are there. So Agni is a very important thing. Kritika Nakṣatra is important. And Kritika is called Agni Nakṣatra. There will be rainfall problems and so many things. Similarly, he goes to Rohiṇī. Rohiṇī, he stayed in Rohiṇī Prajapati for a very long time. This is old Rohiṇī story.
Right.
That Rohiṇī story is now gone. Pura, he was there, fixed. Later on, he was not. But when moon comes to Rohiṇī Nakṣatra, it is a Samya. See, all of the Indian thinking seems to be a similarity principle, a self-similarity.
Self-similarity.
That self-similarity, it becomes marked. Up to the lowest level, you do the same thing. Fixed things you do. You want to build a home, do. You want to go to a home, a rented home, do. This is sthira. You want to do something which is fixed. You are so important, you can do that. Similarly, he says the other 27, but all the others are not listed here. But in the Vṛddhagārga, it is given. All the 27, what is the Vikarana Dharma? Or what was the Daivata? They are the Vedic Daivatas, you know, the Nakshatra Daivatas. And that Muhūrta, the time, he also says that, the time with which he stays in that Nakshatra, that is the yoga. That is the Agni Shoma yoga. Then where astrology comes in, he says that also. There is another anomaly over that. The grahas are moving, and if some other graha comes there, the pure, you can say, the yoga is between only Agni and Soma, between Chandra and the nakshatras. If they are disturbed, new things happen. The original, what was the normal happening had to happen, that won't happen. Something different happens. So if Surya comes there, then it becomes Dagda. Because he absorbs all the Devata quality, he absorbs. So that effect may not be there in that particular nakshatra.
Right.
Similarly, for the others, if some graha comes, he lists the grahas, the powers of the grahas. What is the order of the graha? How it is. There are some Shubha and Ashubha and all that happens. But initially, all this Jyotiṣa is what is called mundane astrology. Today they call it.
Correct.
That is whether rainfall happens or earthquake happens and these kind of things. Natal astrology, he gives very short statements. It is maybe missing, or they have removed it, or they have taken it in some other way. He talks about Jana Nakṣatra, Karma Nakṣatra.
Oh.
Also, something happens. It's a very detailed thing he gives. He says, Nakshatreshu Pidyamaneshu Nakshatra Daivata Karma Janma Samshritanam Karmanam va Upasargaha Bhavati Nacha Yete Grahaha Nakshatreshu Somaha Bhavanti. That means, if some of these nakshatras are Pidyamaneshu, what? Karma Janma Samshritana. If they happen to be the Janma Nakṣatra and the Karma Nakṣatra of the native of a person, then these nakshatras, Soma effect would get reduced. So that may be the origin of the natal astrology. Natal astrology is there, but not from Vṛddhagārga, from Bhrigu. It is there in the Vṛddhagārgīya manuscripts.
Oh, okay.
And also in the Parāśara Tantra. In Parāśara Tantra, I have discussed this. So it was not the horoscopic natal astrology. So basic personal astrology was there, even in the most ancient time. And that origin is this.
Oh, wow.
So that is what he gives. And how do you fix up the position of moon? That much is given, because it is the ayana.
Correct.
So in 10 sun ayanas, there are going to be 134 moon ayanas, 67 cycles versus 5 solar cycles. So it is 67 by 5. So if you know from Maghā Nakṣatra, that is from the Dakshinayana Prarambha, how many sunrises have happened? You have to count. Each nakshatra 13 and half days. And early morning you can see the nakshatras. I given the drawings and all of that in the book.
Yes.
Early morning nakshatra rise, you can see, you know this is that nakshatra. But you want to know where moon is. Do multiply 67 by 5, you get the part where moon is.
Wow. Okay.
Because they knew the cycle between sun and
the
moon. It is not the synodic. It is not the Purnima and Darsha. Purnima they have to observe directly. But that comes up later. It is also given there, but not in Mahasalilam, but in the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, chapter 4 it is there. In the earlier chapters. That is why you asked why did you go to this last Anga?
Correct.
Because none of that could be understood unless this is sorted out. This is the starting point for all of them.
Okay.
So this is the foundation actually for the thing. In fact, Professor Panduranga has clearly written, Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa Granthasya Upodgata Rupoyam Mahasalila Granthaha Veda Rahasyartha Bodhana Paraha Atayeva Vedanga Bhutaha Vedarthavagame Sarveshameva Atyanta Upakarakaha. Clear, that is true.
Okay.
So if people are interested in history of astrology, this is the book.
Oh, wow.
This is from where it has started.
Professor, the interaction has been so enlightening, and Mahasalilam seems like a seminal work which will further engage people interested in research to take up research in various fields that Mahasalilam enumerates in a certain sense. So thank you very much for this enlightening discussion. For the viewers who want to purchase Mahasalilam, the link is at the description below, and please subscribe to Atharva Forum YouTube channel if you have not already done so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hariharan, for your interview and kind words.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Namaste.